It's August 23rd. I'm with Mr. John J. Jeckovich. We're in Studio C, and we're reading his book, Their Mother's Sons. John Jeckovich was in Company H, the 2nd Battalion, 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army during World War II. And his division was nicknamed the Diaper Division. Not in a derogatory way, but in a truthful way, because most young men in Mr. Jeckovich's division were 18 and 19 years old, right out of high school. So I'll start reading his book, Their Mother's Sons, and before I do, I'll have to get the dog tag number from Mr. Jeckovich.
42965.
Okay, that gives me the password to start reading your book. Mr. Jeckovich lives his life in a very happy way. He believes yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. And this is what Mr. Jeckovich has lived by his whole approximate 100 years on this earth. How are you feeling today, Mr. Jeckovich?
Pardon?
How are you feeling today, Mr.
Good. Tip top.
You're looking well.
Yeah.
You got new clothes on, haircut.
New clothes on.
You got a haircut, shaved. Huh? You got your nails done.
Got the fingernails cut.
You're doing really, really well. How was your dinner today, Mr. Jeckovich?
Good, very good. Are those glasses going to stay?
Well, I'll do my best. Hey, listen, did you want to read your book, or did you want me to?
No, you read it. Go ahead, you read it.
Before I start reading, did you have any comments of yesterday's questions we went over? You had a lot of text messages yesterday, and you answered all those favorably. Did you want to say anything, just in a general statement, about your back? You're out of the hospital in Paris, and you're back at the front lines in the Battle of the Bulge, and you're on many reconnaissance missions. Did you want to comment on that?
On the reconnaissance?
On anything that you did?
There's a 3-man patrol going out, yeah, for information, listening posts.
I know you went across the Rhine. I know you went across the Rhine on a raft, but in your service time in Belgium, around all these lakes and rivers, did you ever see a vehicle that looked somewhat like a Jeep, but it would be able to go on land and then in the water as a boat? Did you ever see any of those boats? No, never seen any of those.
Did they make those?
Yeah, during World War II they did. And you would watch them, they would take off on land, total mud, get into the lake and cross it and pick right up again. It's really amazing. And it was actually made by Jeep, and it's highly collectible today. It's highly collectible. If you would have to buy one of those, which are probably just built for like less than $10,000 back in the 40s, maybe less, but if you would have to buy one of those AMPA Jeeps, you'd have to probably pay for a good one, original one, between $250,000 and $300,000. I seen one myself many years ago, and that was in fine shape. And I didn't see. There's another one at the World War II museums in New Orleans on display. And that's where Mr. Jeckovich's original copy of his book will be displayed. So a lot of people asked, is your book for sale?
No.
It'll never be for sale. It's approximately 900 pages, and Mr. Jeckovich spent a lot of time writing this book well over 25 years ago. Who'd you dedicate your book to?
My mother.
Okay, that was wonderful. Well, if anyone has any questions for Mr. Jeckovich, combat soldier, World War II vet, Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, shot up arms, legs, shrapnel still in his legs, just simply text us, and Mr. Jeckovich will answer each and every text. He'll answer each and every text. Text Mr. Jeckovich at area code 407-366 0000. 407-366-0000. Or if you're from the beautiful state of North Carolina, or South Carolina, yeah, either one of them would go this way. If you're from the beautiful and wonderful state of North or South Carolina, text Mr. Jeckovich at area code 407-366-0000. 407-366-0000. Keep in mind there were 16,400,000 young men and women in World War II. There's approximately 100,000 left. And on the 100,000 left, there's only about 8,000 or less of combat soldiers, frontline soldiers, like Mr. Jeckovich. He wasn't a rear echelon typing up letters or doing inventories on equipment. He was on the front line. So there's not many of these combat soldiers left, and all of them are in the late 90s and above. And we're losing them at a rate of 135 a day. So here's your chance. Text questions to Mr. Jeckovich at 407-366-0000. Do you remember V-Day, Mr. Jeckovich?
Yes, I do.
What do you remember about V-Day?
Victory in Europe.
What do you remember about what took place that day?
Well, that was a Sunday afternoon, and they declared it VE Day.
And where were you at?
I was I was skating on the creek.
Okay. And did you have any contact since you left the war with any of your fellow infantrymen?
No.
So when you're done, you're done?
I'm done, yeah.
What did you bring back from the war? A couple dress uniforms?
No, I brought a knife, that was it.
A knife?
I don't know where it's at now.
It's gone.
Well,
interesting thing about knives, that
was a jackknife. It wasn't a big knife. It was a jackknife.
I understand. It was like a utility knife. It wasn't a.
Yeah, it wasn't a big knife.
It wasn't a knife for warfare. It was a utility knife.
Yeah.
But interesting thing about knives, and we were talking about the Geneva Convention rules yesterday, when they issued you, the High Commander issued you a sawed-off shotgun, and you didn't use it. You didn't use it, right?
No.
Because it was in violation of the Geneva Convention.
It is, but I wouldn't use it, no.
So getting back to the Geneva Convention violations, there's numerous violations that took place. But as Mr. Jeckovich mentioned a knife, it brings to mind during World War II, you're only allowed to have a knife, a fighting weapon, that had one blade.
Yeah.
It was highly in violation of the Geneva Convention to have a knife two-bladed, or even worse, a three-bladed knife.
Yeah.
Because once you stab a soldier with that, it's almost impossible to close up the wounds. It was almost impossible. So those type of knives were outlawed during the Geneva Convention. And there was many violations of the Geneva Convention, and they were at Nuremberg, Germany. They're known as the Nuremberg trials. And there was many officers that were tried in the Nuremberg trials in Nuremberg, Germany, from 46 to 49. And there were just really outrageous violations of humanity.
They were German soldiers.
Yeah, and many of the SS couldn't take the court appearances, so they committed suicide. There was secretaries from concentration camps, and they're still chasing them down today at 99 years old. At 99 years old, they're still looking for you. But there's so many people that were at trial during the Nuremberg trials, and there was a lot of sick and corrupted doctors. They did unbelievable, painful experiments on POWs and Jews. Words can't describe it. Words can't describe it. Many of them were hung. Many of them were hung for their activities, what they did. And these are sick, perverted people to do something like this. Very sick. Let's hope we never see this again. Let's hope this is over with. Let's hope we never see this again. You think it's over with, Mr. Jeckovich?
What?
Do you think all this violence during the wartime is over with?
I don't think so. They're starting up already.
Because we also said World War I was the war to end all wars.
Yeah.
The war to end all wars. So, here we go, page 445, Patrols on the Rhine, chapter 15, V-Day. There is nothing else to do but our wet clothes, and to do but change our wet clothes and try to make ourselves as comfortable as possible and get some rest. We did find some comforters and blankets in the house, and we put them to good use. I wondered how that elderly lady whom I carried out of the house was making out. I ate K-rations and made some German coffee, which I found in the cupboard, and shared it with the 3 remaining members of the squad.
Yeah.
So this time you only have 3 guys left.
Yeah.
All the rest are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a walking, talking miracle. It's unbelievable. We were soon all asleep and slept uninterrupted at the rest of the night.
The cook go home.
Yeah. That afternoon, the 2nd Battalion reconnected at the canal crossing over a blown bridge. In the meantime, a mechanized task force of the 289th Infantry had reached the canal, having moved in darkness the previous night through a wooded area. So most of your reconnaissance missions were all done after midnight.
Yeah.
All after midnight, right?
Right. Dark, dark, dark.
And if you had a full moon, would you cancel it?
Well, full moon is an exception.
It was what?
It's an exception. If you have the full moon, you got to think about it.
The 290th Infantry reached the canal at 2:20 p.m. and progress showed the frequent minefields and roadblocks. Do you think there's some minefields in remote parts?
Oh, yeah, that's all you got to worry about, yeah.
Still today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know in the UK people are still getting blown up.
Well, we got caught in the minefield, then they had 2 scouts go out and walk it, and they drop stuff on it, and then you walk that same aisle.
Yeah, but I read in the paper all the time that UK people are still getting blown up by mines in 2024. Wow. The division continued its defense of the west bank of Dortmund-Ems Canal and Swede Canal, preparing to assault the crossing early on the 4th of April. Minutes?
16.
George S. Patton, tired of breaking his promises, the air in his palatial headquarters, which serves as an old folks' home in peacetime, is thick with the smell of cigarette smoke and the clack of typewriters. Junior officers and enlisted subordinates make sure to keep their distance from this volatile general as they range in and out of the command post, not wanting to incur the wrath of the clearly exhausted Patton. You had a run-in with Patton, didn't you?
No.
You had a run-in with Patton when he
In his Jeep? No.
when you were in the barn.
Huh?
When you were in the barn. You were in the barn about 2 or 3 in the morning. You had a run-in with Patton.
Patton woke us up.
Yeah, tell us how that happened.
Oh, we were sleeping, he come in and he said, well, he checked, found the Jeep that the post was supposed to hide. What's this guy doing?
And what happened? Tell us.
Well, they found the Jeep and then they looked around and found us sleeping.
And so Pat came in the barn,
Yeah.
and what did he say to you?
And get your ass up, go to the next checkpoint.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy. When a message arrived from Dwight Eisenhower stating that he is very anxious, I put every effort on securing Bastogne. Patton nearly explodes. What the hell does he think I've been doing for the last week? Patton says to Eisenhower. Eisenhower wants him to push faster. And Patton says, what the hell does he think I've been doing for the last week? Patton will write in his good night, wish you guys the best. Good night. Patton will write in his diary, careful after his troubles not to criticize the boss in front of the headquarters staff. But privately, Patton dislikes Eisenhower's poor tactical choices. The 17th Airborne, 11th Armored, and the 87th Infantry Divisions have all have moved 100 miles back to the French city of Reims as reserves. Have you been to Reims, France?
No, yeah.
What did you do there?
Rest has some hot chow in there. That's the.
Just in case the German breakthrough got even deeper into the American lines, we should attack, Patton complains to his staff. Patton could sorely use the additional firepower those units would bring relief to Bastogne. Instead, they sit in a patient defensive mode for Patton deplores. We should attack, Patton says. The general broods and studies maps of his front line. Patton's tanks crews are spread out over the 30-mile front, locked in a stalemate with the German opposites. They're all gaining little ground and losing too many men, and the tanks as they battle for each other and every inch of the Belgian soil. What type of tanks do the Germans have?
Well, they had heavy, well-equipped tanks like we had. Armored, big ones,
Panzers?
small ones, threaded, rubber, threaded
Panzers?
threads, rubber, metal threads.
Were they Panzer tanks?
That,
Panzers?
yeah.
And what were the American tanks called?
American tanks?
Yeah.
I don't know. What were the American tanks called?
Well, do you think the Panzers were far superior tanks to our tanks?
Germans?
Our Sherman tanks?
No. They were equal.
A German ambush in the hamlet of Chalmette cost Patton 11 Shermans. That's 11 Sherman's tanks and almost 100 men. The 4th Armored also lost scores of tanks in the night that advanced their position just a quarter mile. Even worse, as soon as the 3rd Army passes through a town and reclaims it for the Allies, German paratroopers follow right behind. Yeah, German paratroopers are everywhere, aren't they? Thanks to an intercepted radio message, they knew that the Americans planned to remain constantly on attack. Thus, they move in to take back the towns as soon as the Americans leave. So as soon as the Americans leave a town, the Germans are ready to take it back.
Yeah.
So no one accomplished nothing but a lot of dead men.
Seesaw, that's all.
And a lot of dead men, right? And a lot of dead and injured men. Dead Americans now lie frozen in fields outside Bastogne. Their faces turn the color of claret, and Patton's own description from the blood pooling after death. Patton keeps the detailed tally of the Allied and German casualties, and he knows that the Germans are dying in far greater numbers. So Patton has a pretty good idea. We have a lot of casualties, but the Germans have more.
Yeah.
But casualties only tell part of the story. The German lines are holding fast. Patton and the 3rd Army are stuck, and Tony McAuliffe and the 101st Airborne are now enduring yet another day in a violent hellhole of Bastogne. Did you know about the 101st?
Yeah, 101st.
Were they a good fighting group?
Yeah, they got murdered too.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
101st took the most casualties.
Yeah.
The dirty streets are choked with rubble and small fires caused by artillery shells and left to burn. The only place man can feel safe from the constant shelling is hunkered underground in a cellar where he is at least partially protected from the falling debris. Did you go in many shelters in the cellars?
Do what?
Did you go in many shelters and cellars?
In the cellars?
Yeah.
No, we were told stay out of houses, stay out of houses.
But while there's temporary safety in these bunkers, the trade-off is thick. Asphyxiating smell of unwashed bodies and clouds of cigarette smoke. Did your fellow soldiers
That
smoke?
was a telltale. They were told not to smoke in the area.
But your fellow soldiers smoked.
Yeah.
What kind of cigarettes they mostly smoke?
American?
Yeah.
Chesterfield, Lucky Strike, Pall Malls.
Wow. And where did they get all these cigarettes from?
What was it? Red Cross.
The Red Cross, a picture of health, would line the pockets of all the young soldiers with cigarettes.
Yeah.
I take these are all unfiltered cigarettes?
Unfiltered. Well, they didn't have filters then.
Oh, they didn't. Okay, see, I just learned something. They didn't have filters. What do you think was the most popular, Pall Mall or Chesterfield?
Chesterfield.
Camel.
Chesterfield. They were advertised a lot on the radio.
Do
Chesterfield.
you think many of those young boys that just started smoking in World War II, it might have been the reason?
Might be a
death?
reason because their buddy was.
It might be the reason for their death 30 or 40 years later?
Oh, probably.
Yeah. Did you say at the end of the war you were staying in different camps and they're all named after cigarettes?
Yeah.
What was some of the names?
Camp Philip Morris, Lucky Strike, Chesterfield, Pall Mall.
And that was the name of the camps that you were
Camp,
in?
yeah. And there was a depot of that camps, yeah.
What were they called?
Repo camps, they were the last stop before we got out of our service.
And you had to gain some points in order to get out, right?
Get what?
You had to gain some points in order.
Yeah, had good points, yeah.
And so, what was your camp named after?
Camp was Lucky Strike.
Lucky Strike. Wow, that's a powerful cigarette. If I can remember what they look like, it's white with a red circle and a black dot, and they're short, and they're all unfiltered. Those damn things. If a sniper didn't kill you,
Yeah.
those Lucky Strikes would.
Yeah.
And so even when you're sent to your camp of Lucky Strike, what was it, like a pup tent you're in? What was it?
They were the pup tents.
And in the pup tent, did your fellow soldiers smoke?
No, you couldn't smoke inside, no.
You weren't allowed to,
No.
but everyone else smoked.
They went outside.
Yeah, but, wow. And so the Red Cross passed out all the cigarettes. I didn't know that. Casualties, Mr. Jeckovich says, only tell part of the story. German lines are holding fast, and Patton and the Third Army are stuck. And the 101st Airborne are now enduring yet another day in a violent hellhole of Bastogne. The dirty streets are choked with rubble, small fires caused by artillery shells. But while there's a temporary safety in the bunkers, the trade-off is a thick, asphyxiating smell of unwashed bodies and clouds of cigarette smoke. And because the soldiers and the 3,000 civilians that now share Bastogne are reluctant to leave the cellars for any reason, there is also the scent of a compound known as phenol or carbolic acid, which is sprinkled on the floors to cover the scent of human excrement and urine. So there's a big problem down there.
Yeah.
Holy Christ, there's a big problem. That's a big problem. Elsewhere in Bastogne, American wounded lie atop squalid litters inside an old garage turned to a makeshift hospital. They cannot help to hear the rasp of bone saws and army surgeons cut away and destroyed arms and legs of their fellow armymen. The wounded at an aid station on the road leading to the small town of Neuferschlau was helpless to defend themselves when the German bombers Stand by, technical problems. Technical problems. When the German bombers droned overhead early on Christmas Day.
Oh,
An
yeah.
interesting fact,
Huh?
they droned over on Christmas Day. An interesting fact about Patton, he was born on Christmas Day, and many of the other generals thought the war was winding down. They thought the war was winding down. Some of the top brass, they went to weddings, they went to golfing, and some of the top generals went and find the finest gunsmiths, and they had made commemorative pearl-handled pistols and hunting shotguns. Patton would not have no part of that. He didn't think the war was winding down.
No, no.
And so on Christmas Day, he said the best thing, the best birthday and the best Christmas present, General Patton said, is if he could kill some Germans that day.
Yeah.
If he could kill some Germans. And as it turned out, Patton was right. Now we get into the Battle of Bulge, where tens of thousands of young Americans were slaughtered. They were caught off guard. Outside, the nighttime sky was shot through the stars. The weather was beautiful, clear, and cold. The wounded could not move. Some were in drug-induced stupor to halt the pain, and others were struggling to sleep. They could hear the sound of Junkers, Ju-88s, long before the bombers were over the targets. After long months on the front lines, they knew how to judge whether a falling bomb was far away or close enough to kill them. So being on the front lines a long time like you did, Mr. Jeckovich, you had a pretty good idea to judge if those bombs are going to hit you or are they far away.
Yeah. It was luckily that was.
Yeah, but you had a good sense. You had a sixth sense at that point. The bombs were very close. The bomb that struck the field hospital was not a direct hit, but the explosion was so severe that the roof collapsed on top of the wounded men. Like these wounded men are in such horrible pain, and now the bomb collapsed the roof and landed right on top of them.
Yeah.
Wow. Minutes? That is a sad scenario.
Minute 48.
1
minute 48 seconds.
Wow. That is so sad. The bomb that struck the field hospital was not a direct hit, but the explosion was so severe that the roof collapsed on top of the wounded men. The building soon caught fire, burning many of the bodies beyond recognition. But most of them were already dead by then, buried under the crushing weight of thousands of toppled bricks. General Patton relishes war. He found it glorious and thinks there is no finer test of man's courage. He accepts the fact that horrible death can happen to any man at any time. Minutes. And unfortunately,
50 seconds.
Unfortunately, Patton wasn't killed during World War I or World War II. He was caught in a civilian accident with an automobile.
No, with a cart.
And then, interesting enough,
Cart. He had a concussion. They didn't take care of it.
And interesting enough, he was only 59 years old. And if you would see a picture of him, you'd think he's 80.
Yeah.
The war took its toll, like it does on many people. Minutes.
20 seconds.
The war took its toll on Patton. And he didn't say, take me back to the States and bury me in a fancy army grave. He got buried with the men in Germany.
Yeah.
With his
big cemetery, yeah.
He got buried with the men, the infantry men in Germany. He was a